Situation going on in Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, to be specific. And check out what this is, man. Mississippi Republicans passed bill to create separate unelected court majority in majority black cities. So this is basically what it is. And we're going to get into this interview with the mayor, who has a very unfoundational name. However, it could be a name change situation. So Jackson, Mississippi, which is an 83% black city. Basically, if you ask me, allowed the state, which has no black representatives in it, to usurp the power of the city by creating a separate court that is not responded to votes. So in other words, the 83% power that black people should have has just been usurped. And on the back end, they're sending in reinforcements called state troops. So let's go ahead and check out this interview, and we're gonna get into this. This is ridiculous. Like I understand now why Deion Sanders had to leave Mississippi. I get it, because they really was on some fuck shit. And I gotta say this, man, because this is not one of those making the victims, blaming the victim situation. It's not that. But we do have a responsibility and an obligation to at least fight back. Like, why did I not hear this before? Yes, MSNBC covered this, but this is like a month-old story. Why didn't Jackson, Mississippi, the leadership of that city, make sure that this went viral and that everyone knew what was going on, so this could be combated and at least known about? It's ridiculous. I've noticed since I've been down south, and I hate to say this, but it's the truth. There's a mentality down here, because most of the population of our people is within the southern states. And unfortunately, there's a mentality down here that's just not really, it's not active. It's a very slavey vibe that I be getting down here. I did not expect it. I expected in 2023, when we have cities and states where we have this much of a population, that there would be a lot more pushback towards the bullshit and cooperative efforts to get things done. And unfortunately, I've seen the very opposite. But anyway, check this out.
But tonight we want to start with a state that unfortunately is still stuck in its white supremacist past, Mississippi, where a white supermajority in the heavily gerrymandered state house voted to create an entirely separate court system and expanded police force within the city of Jackson, the blackest city in America, that would be appointed completely by white state officials. That means that the voters of Jackson, which is 80% black, do not get to elect the judges or prosecutors in this separate district, unlike what happens in every other part of the state. White officials currently hold all the statewide positions that would do the appointing, and no black official has ever held any of these positions. In fact, the last time a black Mississippian had office was during Reconstruction. And the state, despite being 1/3 African American, is gerrymandered to have exactly one black congressman, representative and January 6th committee chairman Benny Thompson. Meanwhile, the Republican who introduced this draconian bill says it's because of the high crime rates and backlog of court cases in the county that contains Jackson, which, did I mention, is the state capital. Jackson's mayor has called the plan colonialist and racist and said it reminds him of apartheid. And joining me now is the mayor of Jackson, Chokwe Antar Lumumba.
Hold up, before we even start, let me say this. Like I said, this story is a little too old to have not heard of it until today. This story is way too old for us not to have heard Mississippians, Jackson residents, Jackson officials not raising hell on the internet and making sure that a story like this went viral. That's just a fact. There should have been enough pushback. There should have been things being done, you know what I'm saying, in the background. This is despicable. It's despicable on both sides. It's despicable by the white supremacists of Mississippi. And of course, we would expect nothing less in the state that murdered Emmett Till and let the murderers get away. But we have a responsibility as well. And let me use the Deion Sanders situation as an example. Because a lot of people were upset when Deion Sanders decided to bounce and leave Jackson State for Colorado when they were offering him $5 million. And the little money that he was taking to coach JSU, he was given half of that back. They robbed his office twice because the people didn't take care of him. The college didn't take care of Deion Sanders to make sure they protected their cash cow. They're a Hall of Fame, Super Bowl winning, all-star player turned coach. They didn't utilize his name properly to monetize the system. They didn't keep their word about the ticket sales that he was bringing in. They didn't take care of him. They took him for granted. They didn't circle the wagon around this dude, protect him, make sure he felt appreciated and compensated because for what he was doing to bring notoriety to that football system, which could economically empower the school and the community. They didn't do that. They already got water problems. So we know these sabotages go on in these black cities where water gets compromised and sabotaged. But look, at this point in time, it's 2023. We know what they do. We know what to expect. And we have the power to combat those things if we have the courage to. If we have the consciousness to and the will to, the capabilities are there. So when I see something like this, it's like, yo, this is a mentality that's got to change. Yo, Mississippi, stand up. Where y'all at? Tap in. You got to explain this. Tap in. 83% black. Y'all should be running that through and through. You knew this law was coming. You knew the fuckery that they do. You should have been deputizing every black person down there to be part of the police system. Therefore, you could outnumber these incoming state troops because you know these state troops represent white supremacy. They stripped your ability to be able to use your black majority to create policies to run your city. But let's hear what the mayor has to say about this, though.
And Mayor Lumumba, please explain how it can be possible that the capital of Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, is, I think, to your point, going to be governed under apartheid style.
Well, I think that to speak to it honestly, I'm reflecting on the words of Coach Dennis Green, who once said that they are who we thought they were.
Okay, so they are who we thought they were. So you knew who they were. See, we got to hold ourselves accountable when it comes to these kind of things. Because it's not enough just to cry and point the finger and be like, look what they're doing to us. No, what could we have done about it? And did we do everything in our power to avoid this? And I don't think that happened. They are who we thought they were. For those who don't know, that's a football reference. Coach Dennis Green used to coach for the Minnesota Vikings, a black coach, and he got beat by a good team, and they were like, were you surprised? And like, nah, basically we knew they were good, we weren't prepared, type of shit. So that's pretty ironic that you're echoing those sentiments, but you knew what you were up against as soon as they even proposed that law. You knew what that looked like. You knew. See, this is why the new black media is important. This is why it is important for us to control our own narrative. This is why codification is everything. because we can't combat these things if we're not codified. This brother should have been reaching out to all kinds of new black media, all types of social media, getting this out way back when it was proposed, knowing what it was and knowing that they are who you said they were or thought they were. Knowing what this means. They just took the blackest city in America by percentage, not by population, and took away any power that 83% blackness would be able to potentially have, to basically put in their own separate system to control y'all and take away your power and then reinforce it with state troops just so you guys won't get out of line. They basically made Jackson a plantation. I didn't see no fight. I gotta admit, I could be wrong. I didn't see any. I'm just hearing about this. Y'all are probably just not hearing about this. That's a problem.
As we've been calling out these clearly racist policies, that has been done much to the chagrin of state leadership, saying that we're giving Mississippi a black eye. And to be clear, it is not our words that give Mississippi a black eye. It is the actions that they're taking, actions that will not allow or disenfranchise voters in Jackson, Mississippi. This particular law is fraught with constitutional violations, equal protection. It is seeking to create a district which is the most densely white populated area in the city of Jackson. In addition to a police force or a militarized force that does not have direct accountability to the residents. Within the district that already exists, there have been numerous claims of issues of police misconduct that are not being challenged, that are not being followed up on. And so there's a multitude of concerns here.
It sounds like 1980 era Pretoria. I mean, in 1890, Mississippi enacted a racist constitution to strip African Americans of any rights and the right to vote because of the really, historic and heavy voting by former enslaved people to elect statewide officials and the lieutenant governor to really, make an incredible strides. How could it be that more than 100 years after the Civil War, Mississippi still is governed this way when it has the highest black population in the entire country, percentage-wise?
Well, I thank you for recounting that history, Joy, because along with that history was a narrative that said that it was in it was in black people's interest not to be burdened with that heavy weight of having to select electoral leadership, much in the same way as they have created this district that they set to a point.
Listen, man. I gotta say this. I'm from the West Coast. I'm from Seattle, where we have probably, for bigger cities, one of the smallest populations of our people. In the state, we're only 4%. Yet, per capita, we probably get down greater than any other part of the country. And this is no slight to anyone else. I'm saying because we have so small numbers, the things that we have got done there historically, like what I've been telling y'all about since like 2016, which was that law that we got changed that's never been changed in any other state in the country, which is the police accountability law, Initiative 941. It didn't start off as that, but I chronicled that journey with Andre Taylor, Not This Time, and all the other organizations that were part of that. I chronicled that journey the whole way because I wanted to show people, because I knew we was going to get it done. I had faith, I had confidence we was going to get it done. And I knew if we can get it done in Seattle, there's no reason why it shouldn't be able to get done in other states where you guys have a bigger population of our people to be able to influence something like that to pass. And on the West Coast, our people get down. We don't accept just anything. I'm saying this because I'm seeing too much in the South. Still, y'all letting shit just ride without proper resistance.
the representative who created this legislation or introduced this legislation suggested that the reason that he thought that these judges should be appointed rather than elected is because we wanted, quote, the best of the best, which is to suggest that Jackson residents are not intelligent enough or aware of their needs enough in order to elect those individuals for themselves. And so this has been a battle that we've been in for some time. It is because they are allowed to bring Trojan horses such as the Capitol Complex district, which was initially introduced in 2017 as a suggested aid to infrastructure. At that time, myself, along with a coalition of people that called ourselves the Coalition of Economic Justice, opposed it because we saw what it was. But you did have some legislators that looked like us who were in support. But I do want to be clear that what they were presented with was not what we see today. They were presented with an opportunity to assist a community that is in much need of infrastructure support. And so we're forced to compete against our interests.
There's still a water crisis in Jackson. Federal funds have been pledged. It appears now that the Mississippi white legislators are trying to take over those funds and take them out of your hands and other elected local Jackson officials' hands. This, as Brett Favre is threatening to sue the people who pointed out that he was in possession of funds to build his daughter a volleyball complex that belonged to the impoverished people in the state of Mississippi. He was essentially in a mode of taking from the poor, and now he's suing for his reputation back. It feels like everything is upside down in Jackson and in Mississippi.
It feels that way because that's the truth. And at a time where the state is littered with...
Bruh. Look, man, I definitely feel sympathy for my brothers and sisters in Mississippi, particularly Jackson in this specific case. But if you ain't fighting back, we can't do nothing. You can't have 33% of the state, 83% of the city, and then just complain while these things are being done without no real fight. %83 of the city. It's unacceptable. You should have been building out your police force. You should have been just deputizing any brother that wanted to come in and be a police. Yes. Therefore, you can stand off and let it be known, like, no, we're not having this. Make it a big deal to where the whole country has to be eyeballing this situation to put pressure on these cats. Yeah, of course they want to take over the funds if there's going to be federally, pledged funds for the water crisis. But it's even deeper than that because they're not going to use those funds to fix that water. This is ridiculous. This is sad, y'all. But if we ain't codifying, and if these leaders, whether they look like us or not, are not going to fight back against what's going against our people, then they're no good. And they're setting a bad example, and you could expect these things to happen. Because I know this couldn't have happened in LA if it was 83% black. It couldn't happen in Seattle. Couldn't happen in the West or up North. It wouldn't have happened. But like I said, there's a mentality, unfortunately, still in the South amongst our people, and that's a little slavey. It really got slave vibes from a lot of these cats. I can't lie. When I see stuff like this, it just confirms it. As sad as it is, it confirms it because there's no way